Truth Frequency Radio.
Astronauts to the moon.
10, 9, ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Not to get off track here, but I feel like we're in the Truman Show, and we're in a snow globe, and they just shook it up.
Welcome to reality.
And good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and welcome to your protection from deception. That's right here at truthfrequencyradio.com and streaming live on YouTube. And no matter where you might be, you are correctly tuned into your current reigning #1 show on Truth Frequency Radio on Monday nights between the hours of 6 and 8 p.m. Pacific. That's 9 to 11 Eastern. That show is Jeranism Monday Night Raw, and it starts right now. I'm your host, Jaron from Jeranism, and my co-host, the most hated man in app development. He hails from New Jersey. He is the great David Maldonado Weiss. Dave, hey, did the sun rise okay for you on the East Coast today?
It did, even though something was telling me that it wouldn't. But not only am I the most hated man by the haters, even the people that love me hate me because they're yelling at me because the moon is not showing up on my app.
Where is the moon? Where's the moon?
They're like, there's no moon. And I'm like, yeah, there's no moon.
It's a new moon. Yeah.
It's a new moon. So if you're having difficulty with your app and you can't see the moon, just wait a couple days or turn the fast forward time lapse on, and there it will be.
It's coming. It's coming right around the corner.
It's coming. And if you want to reverse those bad reviews because there was no moon, feel free.
Yeah, go ahead and do those. That'd be great. Awesome. We have so much to cover tonight, so let's start with a quick announcement. An apology to people who may have looked for Globebusters or a live stream from me yesterday. I had said that I would have one, and forgetting that Iru is in Switzerland. And so long story short, there was no live stream after all yesterday. But with that comes great news that coming next Sunday, everyone's favorite show, Globebusters, will be back. That's Sunday at noon, January the 13th. So that'll be the return of Globebusters. Aren't you excited, Dave?
Extremely excited.
Good.
I've been waiting for
months.
4 weeks now, a month.
Yes. And I hope everyone had a happy holidays, a Merry Christmas, a New Year, birthday for me, birthday for Missa. It's been a busy couple weeks. We took a break. We're back, and I'm excited because we got our guest here. Personally, I'm a big fan of this filmmaker joining us tonight. He is an award-winning documentary filmmaker, video journalist, professional camera person. I guess you can't say cameraman anymore, camera person. His films have had well over 2 million views on YouTube. They've also appeared on Netflix and have screened around the world. But tonight we'll be focusing on one of his documentaries specifically. It's about 10 years old, and it is named simply, Did We Go? He's joining the show tonight. I'm happy to introduce Aron Ranen. Aron, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. Hello to you guys. And I love talking about this movie. It's, like you said, I've made a lot of documentaries. There's another one, Power and Control, the history of LSD. One about Werner von Braun.
Yeah, I think that's...
bowling housewives, male prostitution.
All kinds of stuff.
A funny magazine called Girls and Corpses, Religion in Suburbia. But Did We Go was really, to me, and where I love talking about, it was such a special experience to make it, you know. It all began, I received a $65,000 grant from the state of Ohio to basically try to prove we landed on the moon. It came to the University of Cincinnati. A professor there was working on a virtual reality piece about landing on the moon. And to be frank, he said he would sit in coffee shops and people would tell him, you know, we never went. And so he commissioned me to try to prove we landed on the moon. Now, if you're listening in, there should be links all around where you can watch the film. It's all free on YouTube. The website is moonhoax.com. And The film really is not like archival with narration. I went on a journey. I took the camera and I traveled across America and just tried to find all the people that were still alive, that was closest to the action that I could find. And, you know, when you start looking at primary sources, all this other stuff starts popping up. And so the film began as a journey to kind of prove we landed on the moon, and slowly evolved into exploring the Nazis' role in NASA in the crimes that they committed during World War II. Because as you know, but many people don't know, the Nazis, and these were scientists that were at the factories where slave labor was used. I interviewed a slave laborer from the Nazi rocket factories.
Right.
They were part of NASA. So the whole film evolves into this craziness of Nazis and NASA, the KKK at Kennedy. So it's a social justice movie, but it also raises the idea, which I believe both of you guys are interested in, is the idea that how do we as a population choose to believe in something? The concept of mass belief. Right, guys?
Absolutely. I thought one of the best parts of the documentary was you asked somebody, how do you know we went to the movie? He says, I saw it on the TV there. That's how I know. It's right there on the TV. And most people followed that same line of thinking.
So one of the greatest parts of this documentary was I did get to interview Gene Cernan. I did get to talk to Buzz Aldrin, who charged me $500 for the interview.
No way.
And I'll never forget, because this was a small budget. You know, I do everything. So I'm carrying the camera, producing, shooting, editing, interviewing, all at the same time. And I'll never forget his ex-wife telling me how cheap I got Buzz. We're in the kitchen like having tea. And I also spoke to him about Von Braun, which I used in my other film, The Lost Von Braun.
That's a great film. Great film.
Indictment of Werner von Braun. But one of the coolest people, if you know, obviously if people are listening, they're interested in space exploration. And one of the cool people, I tracked down the Frogman that opened the capsule, guys, when they landed, and Clancy Haddelberg, and very interesting interview, really, really cool. And of course, you know, I actually went to McDonald Observatory. I used the laser and ranged off the moon to test all that. So, you know, I really did have an amazing journey that I share with you if you're watching the film. And it's fun. But, you know, like I was telling David, we were having lunch the other day, and he asked me, well, do you believe, Aaron? You remember that, David?
Hello? You're on mute.
Again, I start off the show on mute all the time. Absolutely. You know, the most interesting thing you said to me was that you got this grant to prove that the moon mission was real, and you're like, oh, this is a layup. And as you moved through it, it just got more difficult.
Well, let's start there real quick, Aaron. If you put your personal opinion of whether you think we went to the moon, were you able to prove that we went to the moon with this $65,000 in the Ohio grant?
Right. Now, so, you know, I used to totally believe we landed on the moon. I used to send to the Johnson Space Center. And my friend who actually commissioned this, we'd be in my studio in San Francisco, and we would watch all the moon buggy footage. We were total fans of, and I still am. But, you know, if you ask me, do I know or do I hope we went? It's more like I hope we went. You know, I wouldn't say I'm 100% sure. I'm 70 to 80% sure we went. And now you may say, well, Aaron, how can you say that? Well, as you guys know, I was in at Houston. I was at Mission Control, and I'm interviewing Gene Kranz, the flight director. And inadvertently, during that interview, he tells me that he, for his own book that he's writing, has been trying to track down the original telemetry and science data connected to the Apollo 11 mission. Now, these are tapes and tapes. Remember, there's no compression back then, guys. So these are at least a room full of tapes. And in fact, later they found out that the original video was directly fed to that. What we saw was what we call a rescan, a camera on a computer monitor, but the actual high-def footage was embedded in these not high def, but better looking footage was embedded in these telemetry tapes. And he told me they were missing. Can you believe that, guys?
No, I believe it. I mean,
oh, we believe it.
Yeah.
And so then there I am. I fly to the Goddard Space Center, and because I'm working with the state of Ohio, I had what I call the magic letter that let me go up launch pad 39 and have some special access, which is so cool. And basically, they revealed to me that they can't find the Apollo 11 telemetry, that in the archives, they have every other mission but Apollo 11. And then, of course, those of you who are listening, you probably know the story, how some guys at one of the dishes retired and decided that would be their retirement project to find the tapes. And then NASA ends up coming and saying they taped over the telemetry tapes from Apollo 11 for budgetary reasons to reuse them for other purposes. So it was stuff like that I'm like, oh, in fact, every time I saw like a weird anomaly, I was depressed about it because I was trying to prove we landed on the moon, and this just made my job more complicated. You know what I'm saying, guys?
Yeah, absolutely. And people might remember you from, two different shows I saw you on was one with Glenn Beck, which was he was just acting like an ass and basically humming behind you talking. The other one was with Geraldo Rivera, and I thought that was the funniest thing I've ever heard when you're talking about the tapes that are missing, so is Bart Seibel, and then it gets to Bill Nye's time, and Bill Nye gets in there and says, quiet down, guys, quiet down, I got this, and then says they only lost one tape.
Yeah, it's, but the crazy thing is that they didn't lose them, they erased them. You know what I mean? Now,
well, that's
I
what they
know.
say.
I mean, and then Neil Armstrong,
Aaron,
you'll see my
wait
film.
a minute.
What?
Aaron,
Okay.
how many tapes were there, Jaron or Aaron?
I believe
Jaron
it's
and Aaron. That's kind of cute.
13,000
I
tapes.
don't know the exact.
700 boxes.
How many?
So
13,000
tapes
and 700
to
boxes.
To manually record over them, you have to load them and you have to consciously record over them. That's impossible. You can't do that with moon mission tapes.
Guys,
It's the greatest event in 2,000 years.
When I win the Pulitzer Prize by accident, I want you all to have a beer with me.
Hey, Aaron, I have a question. Were you accepted well when you went to NASA? First of all, I'm very jealous because if I were to be given a wish or a dream, my dream would be that somebody funded me to go investigate NASA. That's my dream. That's what I want to do. So I'm very jealous that you got to do that. But I'm wondering how they responded to you being there and asking these kind of questions and actually asking,
Right.
did we go? Were they rude or were they
Well,
open arms?
It all depended. I had an incident actually at Houston and at the whole Johnson Space Center there. I had arranged to actually film there. They were going to let me see the original moon rocks, look at some of the original negatives, really, really explore stuff. And, I never lie about what I'm doing. So I said, and I had this magic letter, I'm trying to prove we landed on the moon. So that I was pretty open about what I was doing. And I arrived and the PR guy said, oh, no, you can't do any of that. And I go, what can I do? He goes, take the tour.
Wow.
And I had spent quite a bit of money. And I'm like, take the tour? He goes, yeah. And he goes, you can watch videos in the media center. And, obviously I was depressed. I mean, when you be spending thousands of dollars and there I was, I had my Chrysler Sebring convertible in Texas. I was all ready for this. And, I'm not a revenge guy, but I decided and I called CBS TV and all the TV stations. And I just I pitched the idea that I was there trying to prove we landed on the moon. And next thing you know, CBS, and this whole scene is in the movie, Did We Go, which is free. There should be links at the website. You'll see them. This PR guy's worst nightmare. That same day, the CBS guy called NASA, and they did a live shot at 6, and I think maybe even 11, I think, or at least 6, from inside Johnson. So the PR guy had to stay late, and they followed me around the media center, did a whole story, and it was a beautiful, I'm not a revenge guy, you know what I mean? But I did call the TV stations. I pitched it. You'll see they even build a special graphic. It's all in the movie. And, but that was disappointing. But I will tell you that most of the people because I was, I think, being upfront and honest and actually enthusiastic about the space program, I had some wonderful experiences, even with some scientists, some space scientists that I didn't even edit into the movie. I think people respect you if you're not trying to play games. You know what I mean, guys?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the parts of the film that I was a little confused on, or I didn't, the way you portrayed it was that people were very standoffish in Ohio to you. Is that really how it was, or was it just those select few people that were in the film?
You know, I'm going to, again, if you haven't watched the film, obviously my first goal was to try to talk to Neil Armstrong.
Which is ridiculous. Isn't he from Ohio?
I staked out his house in Lebanon. Oh, excuse me?
Isn't he in Ohio?
Right. So I staked out his house in Lebanon, Ohio for a few days, nothing. And so then we opened the film where I'm on WLW.
Mm-hmm.
I had an hour on a talk show where we had a Neil Armstrong hotline line trying to get him to call in. And so then I decided, no luck, let's go just learn about his legacy, right? So actually in the film, there's a whole segment where I go back to Wapakoneta, Ohio. And it's a disturbing kind of weird segment. I'm staying at a $25 kind of like cheap hotel. The locals are telling me about how it used to be like they told me in Neil Armstrong's hometown, there used to be a sign outside that if you're black, don't let the sun shine on your back.
Mm-hmm.
And it was also a German sister city. I think that it's no accident that if we did go, Werner von Braun wanted someone with German ancestry on the moon first, to be honest. I interview his like elementary school best friend in the movie. He talks about playing in this German band.
But he hadn't seen Armstrong in a while, right? Because he said, "Where are you? Where have you been? Where'd you go?"
And then I find actually the garage that had a mini planetarium like telescope on top where Neil was like first checking out the stars. It was really, like if we did go, it was very special, I have to say.
But you never talked to Neil Armstrong. And this isn't just you, because he's never given any private interview to any interviewer or filmmaker. But he also didn't call in, or you never got a chance to talk to him, true?
Correct.
Yeah.
Aaron, what was there anything?
Can I share? Oh, I'm sorry. Go for it, David.
No, my question is: was there anything that you experienced, the person that you met, that made you put a tick in the "we did go" side of the box?
Please don't say Buzz Aldrin.
Okay. I'm trying to reflect the moon rocks, and then I found von Braun was in Antarctica, but someone posted the rocks in Antarctica from the moon that came down would have been heated up, so they wouldn't be similar. So maybe that's something.
You mentioned
So can I share something with you guys? So here's the deal. So I thought, let's say, okay, if we didn't go, the Russians would have squealed, right? Because they probably had the tracking ability. I'm thinking they could watch this thing going down somehow. So I just, for the hell of it, I Googled when was the first time we made a treaty to reduce our nuclear arsenal with the Soviet Union, and it was just like 3 or 4 months after the 1969 landing. Isn't that crazy? So I'm saying that they used it as blackmail, but it was just weird to me. It was like one of these weird anomalies, just like in the movie. But I don't know. It's one of the other things, in the movie that I really want to give credit to is the author Ralph Ranen. And Ralph wrote a book called NASA Mooned America. It might still be on sale on the internet. Again, it's NASA Mooned America. And in the first segment, I visit him in Totowa, New Jersey, and we meet at a Holiday Inn. And with an opaque projector, he goes through, whatever you call those projectors, he's going through some of the enamel, the shadows going different ways, the appearance of letters on rocks, the absence of stars. And I have to say that, we got to give credit to Ralph Ranen, Bill Kaysing, Bart Seibel, these guys who, have looked at a lot of this kind of like high-tech stuff, where I'm more social engineered my way on this journey around to talk to people and find, evidence that we went. And like I said, it was a little more disappointing, but it did open up other social justice issues, such as the Nazis' role at NASA, the idea that the KKK was allowed to operate basically openly at the Kennedy Space Center. I mean,
How about Buzz
so
saying,
to me,
Buzz didn't know anything about von Braun, didn't
no,
know,
he defended von Braun.
defended him.
He defended von.
Yeah.
Yeah, he defends him in the Lost von Braun. He's,
Yep. I actually have that
he's
sound
defending
clip.
von Braun.
I actually have that sound clip. We can play it a little bit later where, yeah, he defends him. And then he says something very interesting. He says, no, I don't want to get into that. A lot of people are told to do things by people above them, and they have to do it because they're told to. He's just, I don't know, Freudian slip, in my opinion. That's exactly what people would accuse him of doing is, he only faked going to the moon because somebody told him to. But he kind of spells that out and saying that, I don't want to go back and look into people's pasts because a lot of people are told to do things from those higher up. And it's when we get told to do something by a superior, we have to do it. I think that's interesting.
So, Aaron, I asked you if anything, you put a tick in the we did go side. And one of the things you mentioned, and you mentioned the other day, was something about the moon rocks, where you had some question there. And you mentioned to me that that moon rocks did fall in Antarctica. Where did you get that information from?
In my research, I don't have the footnote right here, but moon rocks do fall in Antarctica. They are pushed by the snow up against toward the mountains. Von Braun was in Antarctica prior to the Apollo 11 mission. Like I said, though, someone posted that the rocks falling from the moon would look different than actual moon rocks because of the heat. So maybe that's, maybe that was an error in my connections. But I mean, it's interesting, don't you think? Von Braun in Antarctica, where you can get moon rocks 6 months. This is the kind of stuff that I was talking about that, these anomalies that actually make the film more entertaining because I'm really trying to prove we landed on the moon. You know what I mean, guys? And it's just like...
And it turned you into a skeptic.
Well, I have to say, like I said, I don't completely believe we landed on the moon. I'm almost there, but it's based on really hope and belief in these brave men that, they actually did this job. And, so, we all know about the Van Allen belt, right, guys? There's so much information about all this stuff that, it's like I said, I think the film, if you watch it, you'll get to meet a lot of the original people involved, including 3 of the Nazis. I went to Huntsville, Alabama. And I've got
was that the drunk guy, the guy that the guy that says that he built these satellite dishes?
No, well, the drunk guy in the movie, who's 3 sheets to the wind, ran the satellite operations at Kennedy and tracking operations during the Apollo missions. And he happened to be inebriated when I came. I don't know why. I booked the interview that afternoon. He knew I was coming.
His wife answers the door kind of upset, like, huh?
And the film has a lot of left turns. And basically he spills the beans about some of the activities that the precursor to NASA was doing with ballistic missiles on Johnson Island and how they had a explosion with an atom bomb. And he goes, I can't talk about it. And then actually when I was at the National Archives in College Park, Maryland, which was an amazing experience, it's got like skylight windows, multiple floors, all these research assistants, and all the original Nazi footage of the rockets going all the way back to von Braun, and then all the Apollo 11 stuff. And it was there that I just mentioned this Operation Hardtack to, it might have been like a security guard. And he said, the Department of Energy has just declassified all that. And I contacted him. I actually found the nuclear mishap footage. It's in the movie. So the film takes a lot of turns. But no, he was not part of the German group. The German group in my film, Karl Sendler, who was one of the inventors of Doppler tracking in the movie, I asked him if he's proud of the Apollo 11, the Saturn V. He goes, of course. But then he shows me a picture of the V2 rocket, and that's what he signs in autographs when people ask for his autograph. And then
I think he spilled the beans when he said that, it could be simulated. He said, well, they could simulate it, but it was real data, which is the equivalent of saying, well, if somebody wanted to simulate it, you wouldn't know the difference.
Isn't it? I mean, it's, when I was
this is what you can get out of that film.
I was talking about this with David the other day, and I was talking about just mind control and the psychology of mind control and being part of a group, and how I thought it was interesting that during the Apollo 11 mission, all the mission controllers grew mustaches and then shaved them off after the mission. Actually, I'm not sure if they shaved them off, but they all purposely grew mustaches for the mission. You can see that in the pictures if you Google Apollo 11 mission controllers group shot. You'll see they all have mustaches. And I did end up meeting people who are connected. You'll see John Llewellyn, who is a space navigator. I basically hung out at the bar. If anybody's been down to Johnson, I hung out at that bar, the Outpost, across from Johnson. And I ended up meeting all these guys and connecting, and they told me that it was wired for simulation. That's how they rehearsed.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, how could you tell the difference? And he says, well, the real stuff was more erratic in terms of the signals that they pump through.
I mean, my
but
thing
it
has always
was
been
set up for simulations.
Right. And my thing has always been that these journeys into space are mathematical. And so they could be very easily done in a computer program that outputs as if these crafts are on Mars, on the moon, you know, whatever. Hey, we do have a break coming up shortly here. Can you hang with us for a few more minutes, Aaron? Or
Sure, I'd love to.
Okay, yeah, great. And just so people know who we're talking to Aron Ranen. And
the website also
yeah,
is moonhoax.com, but you can watch the whole film for free on YouTube. Just type in Did We Go, or you have a link, right?
Yeah, Did We Go? And I think it's in 6 parts. They're like 10 minutes apiece, really easy to watch. And it's a great film, and it's kind of funny. And again, I really think that the more revealing documentary was the Lost von Braun, because yeah, I mean, if people need to understand what happened there, and people need to see that in your film, by the end of it, there's no way anybody can say, well, maybe he wasn't part of, you know, Nazi Germany. Maybe he wasn't in the SS. Maybe he wasn't a main officer. Maybe he had nothing to do with Peenemünde. You can't say that. You've proven that he was implicit.
Right. We have pictures of him with Adolf Hitler. But it's funny. I was with David at lunch last week, and there were 2 kids, probably 27. And I just asked them, Nazis in NASA's moon program, true or false? And, they had no clue. And meanwhile, my uncle told me I was wasting my time making that movie because everybody already knew about it.
Hold that thought. Don't go anywhere, guys. You're listening to Jeranism Monday Night Raw. We're with Aron Ranen. We'll be back in 2 minutes. Don't go anywhere.
Tell me about the waters of your homeland, Marty.
It is well known that the key to escaping the Matrix is purifying your consciousness. But our consciousness is bombarded daily with chemicals in the air we breathe, the food we eat, and the water we drink. This is why we are proud to bring you TFRwater.com, where you can get the Alexa Pure water filtration system. Unlike typical water filters, the Alexa Pure comes standard in stainless steel to keep your water free of BPA and dangerous chemicals found in plastic. This revolutionary water filtration system removes 99.999% of all contaminants, including fluoride, a dangerous neurotoxin added to drinking water, which was first used in Russian gulags to keep prisoners docile. This is standard without the need for expensive add-ons. The Alexa Pure retails for $199, but you can get $50 off by going to TFRwater.com now. Supplies are limited. 4 per person, please.
Hey, it's Grace. Can we talk about something serious for a minute? Your age. Getting old has its perks. But remember, being a few years younger, your hair was thicker, you didn't have so many wrinkles, that extra weight wasn't haunting you, and you just felt better. Well, we can't turn back the clocks and go back 10 or 15 years, but you can start feeling and looking 10 or 15 years younger with Nature's Youth RSF. It's a doctor-formulated daily supplement that helps your body maintain its peak performance and fight the aging process. Imagine sleeping better, looking better, and feeling better. See how Nature's Youth RSF has helped thousands of people just like you at natureyouth.com. Natureyouth.com. Imagine how it will feel when your family and friends are asking you what you did to look so good. Your secret will be Nature's Youth RSF. It's time to start looking better and feeling better. Learn more and order your Nature's Youth RSF at natureyouth.com. That's natureyouth.com. That's natureyouth.com.
He was the deputy director of MI6, Britain's most senior diplomat. He was knighted by the Queen and in charge of thousands of highly trained spies. But he was also a member of the pedophile information exchange. He had 45 diaries full of sex fantasies with children. His friend was the private secretary of Margaret Thatcher. He strangled a child and hit another with his car. He raped young boys and organized orgies with children for other politicians.
The Enigma Channel, intelligent television for planet Earth. EnigmaTV.com.
This is Truth Frequency Radio.
No hate, no hype, no fear. Real people, real radio.
All right, welcome back. You're listening to Jeranism Monday Night Raw. We're here with Aron Ranen. And Aron, here's my issue. So you were given $65,000 from Ohio, which is Armstrong's own state. You were given access to NASA, to Gene Kranz, to the archivists, to these original German scientists, to Buzz Aldrin. I should watch your film, Aron, and be convinced that we went. So my confusion is, you stated here tonight that you might be a skeptic, but you hope or you think that we went, but your video doesn't match at all what your opinion is now. Your video shows very clearly that you can't prove it. So isn't it?
Well, it's really how can I? It's hope. It's hope that we really went. It's blind faith, just like that band, you know. And
hey, at least you admitted it.
I know that's ridiculous.
Well, at least you admitted it.
Aaron,
you know,
I have to say that is the one of the biggest problems. Most people like yourself, you know, we hung out for a while. I can tell you're a good person, and it's hard to imagine the evil that's in this world. So just on the fact that there's things that we couldn't do, we couldn't lie like that. We have this faith, but when looking at the moon, especially after watching your video and doing any research, there's nothing that ticks off in the "we went" box, and it's just blind faith that has you maintaining the 70% possibility that you think we went.
It does. It does. Hey guys, I'm wondering, can we talk about my LSD conspiracy documentary and switch gears for a moment? Do you think that'd be cool to talk about Colonel George White and the LSD CIA brothel in San Francisco and a bunch of preachers getting fed mushrooms at Boston University?
What is the name of that documentary?
Does that interest you guys?
Well, we can do that on another
to
show.
Me, like, we've kind of talked about the moon, and everybody kind of gets it, you know.
Well,
I made a movie.
Well,
who knows if we went?
Right.
I got blind faith.
Well,
so, you know, I mean, that's why I keep thinking if we switch gears and the folks are listening now, they might be interested in this history of LSD and the CIA's involvement in the 1950s.
Well, this show and my channel is very much into the fact that I am a complete believer that NASA has been blowing smoke up the public's, you know, ass since 1958. But let me just ask you this: as a filmmaker, so
well, let me at least promote that movie.
Okay, go ahead.
It's called
Promote.
Power and Control: LSD in the 60s. It's free on YouTube. Power and Control: LSD in the 60s. And I hope you guys, if you enjoyed Did We Go, you watch that. It's the same kind of journey style. And
we'll make sure it's linked up in the description. And I did start watching it the other day, and it's excellent. I can't wait to finish it.
Well, I appreciate you taking this little pit stop to discuss that. But, you know, I'm happy to talk about the moon landing. And, of course, you know, Werner von Braun is a Nazi criminal. There should not be a von Braun Civic Center in Huntsville, Alabama, which there is.
Right.
10,000 slaves were forced to dig underground tunnels for the Nazi rocket factories. The slave that I interview, he was a slave laborer in Werner von Braun's Nazi rocket factory.
Peenemünde,
Talks
yeah.
about 6 months. 6 months after they dug the tunnels, this was actually Mittelwerk in central Germany. They tested the rockets on the Baltic coast of Peenemünde. He said they were like blind men coming out of the tunnel. They hadn't seen light for months and months. In fact, in front of these tunnels, outside the factory, they would hang 6 people, well, roughly a number of people hung every day accused of sabotage. And this guy, Arthur Rudolph, would sign the death warrants. This is in Germany, World War II. After the war, Arthur Rudolph became NASA's head of rocket manufacturing.
And this was all hidden from the public, right?
Why didn't I learn that when I was learning about science at the Boston Museum of Science? So the second film we're discussing now, The Lost von Braun, which was brilliantly edited by Douglas Robbins in a collaboration. This guy was a genius, set it out, like you said, like a complete legal argument.
Oh, it was a great
and
film.
Douglas Robbins, he did a really great job. And, you know, it's
there was a guy from the Department of Justice.
Amazing that
the guy from the Department of Justice flat
Eli
out said,
Rosenbaum.
he said flat out that if von Braun was alive today, he would be, tried for war crimes.
Ironically, he would show Did We Go to new interns at the Office of Special Investigation. He liked that film. Eli told me he liked that better
Really?
than the von Braun, the straight ahead von Braun film. Yeah, but the idea that
what about this idea that you're a filmmaker, right? And so you said that you did this all on your own, meaning you're carrying the camera. So my question is, as a filmmaker, can't you, or don't you, or should you, don't you look at 1969, the technology, and start to question the fact that they were filming on a moving moon rover and this moon buggy, that they're sending all this data back? I mean, you can't just walk around with your camera. And I mean, how long will your camera last until the battery dies?
Well,
even today,
I'm not an expert on any of that, so I can only address the stuff that I examined. But I know that you guys and Dave have looked into all this stuff.
Well, no, I'm asking you as a filmmaker.
I think but I don't know.
No, how long can you walk with your camera? I mean, can you go? If I told you I need you to go do a documentary and film a football game, I mean, can you just go with your camera and it lasts the entire time and it can telecast? And how does all that happen now?
Yeah, I can do that. Right. I have like a 3-hour battery. I can wear what's called a live view, a porta pack on my back that could broadcast it live for dozens of hours, actually.
And how big is that?
And that's how we operate. And as a journalist in Manhattan, that's how I broadcast live, is doing that from like, whether it's Weinstein's court appearance, the sentencing of Michael Cohen.
Right. So if you've got a 3-hour
broadcast live,
you've got a 3-hour battery pack now. It's 2018.
Right.
Back then in 1969, could they do what they claim to have done? Could they have enough battery power?
I'm not an expert. I am not an expert. I can't comment on that. I wish I could. All I know is I wish they hadn't erased the telemetry tapes, because then, if we did go, we'd have this gorgeous, clear video. And
Aaron,
now we're seeing.
How about the? Did you look into it?
They didn't erase the tapes.
Where are they, Dave?
They never had them.
Let me ask you this: did you look into at all the fake moon rock that was given to Holland?
I didn't know this was going to be an ambush interview.
No, it's not an
ambush.
ambush.
Not an ambush interview. We're on the same team here, Aaron.
I have so many questions.
I'm joking. I'm joking. Next time we'll do on video. Wave my hands. So it's a joke. Like
I said, I'm actually jealous. I wish that I got to do some of the stuff that you did. Did you look into at all the moon rock that was given by the 3 astronauts to Holland, and then it ended up being a piece of petrified wood?
No, but one of the science experiments that I did do was I did go to the McDonald Observatory in Texas. It's supposed to be the darkest place in like America. And it's just a telescope farm up there. It's really cool. Everybody sleeps all day because they work all night. And there were people tracking near-Earth objects on one telescope. And they actually gave me a week, the University of Texas, with 2 people. And and I showed Dave the footage of this. We were able to try to laser range off the moon. As you know, you can send pulses through a laser. And theoretically, if there is a reflector at that point, it will send that signal in a parallel path back to Earth. And it took us, I think it was 3 nights before we started getting what they call returns. You can see this in the movie.
Right, but the problem with that is that moon lasers have been shot off the moon and returned since the early 60s. So it has nothing to do with the moon landing. I mean, 1960...
Well, that's, you'll see in the movie, unfortunately, right after I did that, I found the pictures of all the Soviet unmanned moon, landers that all had reflectors on them.
Right, what I'm saying is
you don't need a manned mission to land a laser reflector on the moon.
You don't even need a mission at all.
In terms of proof, it's really it's mute.
Yeah, because you don't need a mission at all, because the first successful tests were in 1962 when MIT laser pulse reflected from the moon's surface using a laser, but that was in 1962 before anything landed there. So clearly that can be done without landing there. And this is the kind of thing that I always see. They want to go to that to be proof. Oh, well, they dropped these lunar, but in 1962 you were able to get a return from a laser. So obviously that's not proof of anything.
Well, I'm saying you can just Google laser reflectors on the moon, and a lot of them will be mounted on these unmounted probes. So it's
but we were getting return
I was very
lasers.
Disappointed. I got very excited, to be honest. You'll see the movie. Once we had successfully laser ranged, I actually do a moon dance inside the laboratory that's in the film, because I was so excited.
And just so people know what they do, they send 4 quadrillion laser pulses, and then they hope to get 1 back. Not 1 billion or 1 quadrillion, 1. And that means that they successfully hit the reflector. But again, in 1962, they did the exact same thing with no reflectors. So
yeah, it's why do you guys think Neil just never said anything? I mean, do you think this plays into the it's just he was too honest to talk, or what do you think? I mean, I don't want to disparage him if we did go.
No,
if we did go, he's a great man.
Maybe when Neil got into the program, he actually thought he was going, and it wasn't until the very end when he realized he wasn't going. Just like most of the workers at NASA, where they're in the dark, they're all compartmentalized, and they don't realize it's a scam until only the people at the very top are aware, and at one point they have to inform these astronauts that it's fake. So looking at the press conference, the famous press conference right after, that tells you right there that these guys did not go. And if they didn't go, everything extrapolates from there. It's all nonsense. And the only way that you can have any percentage of your belief that we did go is pure hope for humanity. And there is none.
And with that, guys, I get to say goodbye, but thank you so much for having me on the show. It was totally great talking to you and talking to your audience, and hopefully they'll check out Did We Go. It's all free on YouTube, and also my LSD documentary, my film on male prostitution, bowling housewives, girls and corpses, kids with kids, and it goes on, suburban housewives that do S&M.
It's all on your website?
On my YouTube. It's American culture at its best, and I want to share them with folks, and hopefully get out there soon and make some new stuff. My last documentary, Black Hair, has had over 1 million views, guys, and it's about the Korean takeover of the black beauty supply industry and what African Americans are doing to take it back. It's just called Black Hair Documentary, and we'll see what's next. But I love talking to you guys, and it's a great show, and thanks a lot for having me on.
All right, appreciate it.
Thanks for coming on. We appreciate your views.
Talk to you later. Cheers, guys.
Later, Aaron.
Bye-bye.
So that was fun, interesting. Thank you, Aaron, for joining us. He sounded a little scared to me, Dave.
You know what? I met the guy, and I can tell you that he's not a shill. He's just a guy that is a filmmaker trying to put out good content. When I talked to him about Flat Earth, he just had the normal beliefs that somebody that hasn't looked into Flat Earth.
Right, that's
and
okay.
When I bring it up, he goes, "Well, I haven't looked into it." He's honest. He goes, "You know what? I just haven't looked into it, but I can't believe."
Dave, here's my
and when
problem.
someone says I can't believe, it's because they can't believe.
Dave, here's my problem. If you gave me $65,000 and said, "Jaron, go prove this," and I go and I spend that money, I travel around, I interview people and everything, and at the end, I don't have anything that would lead anyone to believe that we went. What in his video would lead anyone to think that we went? Here's the problem. Is that once that happens, I would come back to you and say, Dave, I spent that $65,000. I couldn't prove it. I don't think we went. The problem is he gets to that point and then says, but I hope we went. But I really want to believe that we went. Even though he just wasted $65,000 of taxpayers' money and didn't prove a thing.
I don't think he wasted. I think the film is excellent. I think it was worth $165,000.
What I'm saying is his goal was to prove it. Just like if I told you, go prove that so-and-so lives at this house, here's this money to go do it. Well, if you went and spent that money and looked around that neighborhood and did a bunch of stuff and could never prove it, then you can't come back to me and say, well, Jaron, I couldn't prove it, but I still think that is where it's at. It's like, well, no, I just gave you the money to go prove it. So to me, if he's got $65,000, access to all these people, there should have been so much content in that video that makes me go, maybe we did go. I watched the video and I say, absolutely, there's no way we went. And they reveal themselves over and over throughout the film.
I think he's just a guy with some hope, and maybe he gets to a point where he doesn't want to look further. I sized him up as an honest, smart, nice guy. So
I agree with that.
I like what he's doing. It just if you ask me, we have some major difference of opinions. And
well, I guess
the one thing he said to me, though, as I said before, was he admits he hasn't looked into these things, so he can't comment on them completely.
Right. Yeah. And my hope would be that at least he's a skeptic, right? I mean, somebody was given money to go prove that we went to the moon, and they came out of that exercise a skeptic. That's not what should happen. What should happen is you should go in there, spend that money, and give a bunch of proof and prove it to everyone that we went. Instead, all it opened up was a bunch of holes. I want to listen to one thing real quick. This is from part 3 of his documentary, The Lost von Braun. Just listen to Buzz Aldrin here. First of all, we're talking about Wernher von Braun. He's implicated in all these deaths that were at Peenemünde, the rocket factory. Listen to Buzz Aldrin make excuses for him, and then I want you to hear what he says after that, which I think is a Freudian slip and a big one. But listen to this.
I was not aware of any of these stories that I think people who do research and the media want to create something of news, so they want to dig up whatever they can.
Okay, so people want to create news, so they want to dig up whatever they can. So he's talking about with von Braun, as if people went and dug up his Nazi past. No, that stuff came out with documents.
And I feel in a lot of ways that's motivated not by really a search for the truth, but can we come up with something that's different, sensational? Can we create a hero? Can we create a person who really does great things for us? And then can we find something in his background that we can criticize?
That's ridiculous. I mean, nobody operates that way. Nobody says, let's build this hero of von Braun, and then let's go back and see if we can figure out if he's a Nazi. Nobody did that. It's just what happened because he was. Now listen to this. I think this is the most revealing quote in the movie.
I don't really put too much stock in those stories, and I'm certainly not that interested in delving into somebody's background. All sorts of things are done for a person's country by direction of those above us.
Let's hear that again just one more time, because he's basically describing himself. He doesn't want to look back into people's pasts because all kinds of things are done by people who are given direction from those above us, he says. Let's listen again.
Families.
So I don't really put too much stock in those stories, and I'm certainly not that interested in delving into somebody's background. All sorts of things are done for a person's country by direction of those above us.
I think that's great.
Mark
that's
Passio
exactly
talks about order followers. They are the worst scum on earth.
Absolutely.
If you haven't seen that, look up Mark Passio order followers, and really you'll get a good taste of what that means.
Yeah, no, I mean that's the thing, and I believe that they are told that they're doing it for the right reason, right? I don't think that they get these guys together and say, we're going to lie to the world. I think it's much more of like, well, we're having trouble getting to the moon right now, but we have, Kennedy said we needed to do it, and we're going to eventually get there, so you guys will be first, but then people will get there after you, and then you'll be kind of forgotten. And they're doing it because they think they're doing something for their country. And that's basically where they get caught up. Now, to me, the difference with that one is Buzz Aldrin is either a flat-out liar or he's hypnotized, because that guy just keeps going and going and going and telling story after story after story, selling everything. He sells a quarter all the time, like, oh, this quarter was in my pocket when I was on the moon, let's go auction that off. And then he charged the guy for that interview $500 to interview.
That was cheap. That was a good deal.
Holy Christ. You got to be kidding me. I mean, it's just ridiculous. I mean, if I was the second man on the moon and somebody said they wanted to interview me, why wouldn't I just say okay? Why would I demand money?
If he's not like if he was in on it, don't you think NASA would pay him better so he didn't have to charge and sell quarters? Don't you think they would like, here, you're going to lie to the world and we're going to make you comfortable? But the guy seemed to be struggling for every dollar.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe he was hypnotized.
Well, you got two polar opposites here. You've got Buzz Aldrin, who goes around doing all this, and he's basically NASA's spokesperson. Where you've got the other guy, and Neil Armstrong, who completely became a hermit. So that's why I don't know if maybe the I don't know if you want to call it hypnotism or whatever. If that took on Aldrin and not Neil Armstrong, or maybe Neil Armstrong just could never. I don't know. That's a problem to me. You're the first man on the moon, and then you would have known that, and then to come out of it and say, well, I'm not going to give any interviews to anybody. Well,
maybe
why?
It was the Van Allen radiation belts that just affected their personalities.
It fried his head.
Right. They didn't have any protection. What do you think?
I didn't think about that.
It's going to be normal?
No, he's not going to be normal. So, yeah, check out Aron Ranen's couple videos there. Yeah, like I said, to me, if I was given money to go prove something and I go out and I can't prove it, and my video pretty much shows the reasons I couldn't, then I would come back and tell people I couldn't prove that we went to the moon. And it seemed like he didn't want to quite say that, even though that's exactly what his video shows. So to me, it's like, I think he's a little bit afraid of being the guy that comes out and says we didn't go to the moon. Look what happened with Steph Curry. He comes out, he says it in a podcast, he's completely honest and says, yeah, I don't think we went. There's no way we could have got this there and do this. And the next day, he's forced to come out and lie. And guess what? That's what the world wanted. Everyone said, good, all right, good. Come out and tell us that you were just joking when you clearly weren't. So now we're making people lie about it and come out. So, I mean, he's got to be afraid of things like that happening. If he were to come out and say, I did this movie, I spent this money, and I proved to myself that we didn't go, now you've got a little crosshairs on your head. Whereas if you come out and you say, well, I did the movie, watched the movie, and I hope we went, I think he's just being safe.
Maybe subconsciously he's being safe and doesn't even realize it, or consciously. Either way, who knows?
And he described his love for space, and that's something that I know a lot of people have that I don't and didn't. And maybe that's a big difference, is I never cared for it. But, he talked about moon buggies and his friends watching it. And I think that's a big part of it. I mean, anything that is in our conscious mind from a young age, we may not even know that it's there really, but you just grow up with these beliefs. And it's all because these guys have basically stolen reality from us. Right? Our minds are so messed up because we've been taught space, we've been taught planets, we've been taught spheres, we've been taught moon landings, we've been taught that the guys were standing sideways on the moon from where we're looking. They robbed us of our reality. They like to shoot rockets, and so they keep launching rockets into the sky, and they want more money for it, and they want to make bigger rockets. And so what do? We keep giving them money. And what do? By the way, everyone, congratulate. I don't know if anybody else is celebrating every day that the government's closed. I am, because guess what that means?
They're still closed? I had no idea.
Well, the great thing is NASA's closed. So I don't care if it ever opens again. Couldn't care less. I hope that they stay closed. And because look, is anybody feeling the effects of NASA being closed down? No, because they're a movie agency. They're just like Hollywood. They put out films for you and they show you rovers on Mars, and people get excited because there's a group of 50 people sitting in front of computer screens and all celebrating, and they look very smart. And, oh, isn't America great? And look at how our ingenuity is coming along. And it's just such nonsense to me that people can't recognize what's going on when it comes to space travel. One of the things I talked about in my live show the other day, Dave, and maybe you can quote it better than me, is Crow's Law of High Definition.
Use it all the time. Crow's Law of High Definition. It says anything that's interesting that can be filmed in high def will be filmed in high def.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think, so when you think about that, just remember that we just had a Chinese lander drop a little rover on the moon, on the far side of the moon, and we got 2 or 3 grainy images. Now think, 1969, we're talking 50 years ago, we have people go to the moon and they're able to telecast live footage from the moon. They send back live footage. Now, 50 years later, 2018, 2019, and we can't transmit live video from the moon?
Do you want my answer on that?
Oh boy, do I want to I'll call for Baller Dave. Baller Dave, can you tell me what the reason for this is?
Yes, Jism. They were on the
What the
front
hell
of the
did you
moon,
just say?
facing Earth. Okay, they're on the backside. They can't transmit through a rock, even 50 years later.
They have a satellite. They have a relay satellite. They sent up last month. It's supposedly
And that's why it's grainy. It's 238,000 miles.
Oh, okay. What about the Mars?
How's your cell phone, on a long distance shot across our thick atmosphere? This is going through space, Van Allen radiation belts. Of course it's going to come back grainy.
Baller Dave, have you ever seen the image of Pluto?
Of course.
Is that grainy? Why is that grainy? Oh, it is? All right.
Baller Dave left.
Oh, can I get real Dave back?
Yeah.
Did he just
he
call
doesn't
me?
like coming up to the break.
Did he just call me Jism?
I don't know. I didn't hear that at all.
I'm going to go back. If he did, oh, man. We're going to have words. Me and Baller Dave next time he's on the show. Anyway. I got carried away there. I don't know what I was talking about. We've got a lot coming up after the break. We may get to some calls, but we got a lot to talk about. So
we'll definitely get the calls in the last half hour. We have to. But Owen Benjamin. We have to talk
awesome.
about him.
Yeah, and I'm in the Owen Benjamin fan club of banning everybody. I totally agree with him. I don't need anybody. If you hate the show and you're listening right now, you're a fool. If you hate the show, turn it off. Turn it off. Get off the chat. And go do something productive with your life. Okay?
If you haven't seen the video I put of Owen Benjamin singing Pink Floyd, banning people, it was probably the greatest thing ever. And he's ruined Pink Floyd for me because now when I hear Comfortably Numb playing in my head, I hear his lyrics and not theirs, and I can't get it back.
Oh, man. I totally agree with him on so many things. I love how he just he's so frank about it all. And he's so close, Dave. I predict middle of the year.
I predict tomorrow.
Really, that's quick.
Yeah, he's supposedly having Eric Dubé on. So,
well, I think he was going to ask him on, but yeah,
I think Eric is, probably well equipped to do it. The question is, will Eric flip and start calling everyone shills in the middle of the interview and blow the whole thing?
Well, and Owen seems like he's the same kind of as Aaron, where he just probably hopes you're a sphere. And
he does, but he's willing to look and he's willing to change his mind.
Absolutely. Right, absolutely. And he's so close because he already recognizes that everything NASA feeds us is garbage. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to Jeranism Monday Night Raw. We'll be right back with more, and we're going to be on YouTube for the whole show, so stay with us. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.
Frequency Radio is your #1 source for news and information without the hate, hype, and fear. We're proud to feature cutting-edge programs like The Christopher Everard Show, The Covert Report with Susan Lindauer, Enemy Within Radio with Tom Barnes, Freaky Friday with The Woo Crew, The Gematria Effect with Zachary Hubbard, America's Evil Genius with Travis Cook, Phoenix Rising Radio with Phoenix, Quantum Connections with Lucky, and dozens more. Did you know you can listen from any telephone by dialing 641-793-7117 or call into your favorite show toll free at 833-TFR-LIVE. Uncensored talk and news you won't hear in the mainstream media. Truth Frequency Radio, your protection from deception.
The border wall, Syria decision. I'm Ann Cates. All the major television networks plan to carry President Trump's speech tomorrow night as he heads to the boundary with Mexico later this week.
The president's visit to the border will be part of his communication strategy to highlight what he argues are dangers of border areas without fencing. Plus, he'll meet with Border Patrol agents on the front lines who are not sure when they'll be paid next. Last week, their union leaders endorsed President Trump holding out for the wall funding, but White House communications aide Mercedes Schlapp is asked about the hundreds of thousands of other workers who are also worried about when they'll get a paycheck.
It is so important that they call the Democrats and basically tell the Democrats, stop the delay tactics, let's negotiate.
Still, the nation's largest government worker union is calling on the Senate to defy the president and support House bills that would fund all departments now closed. Bob Costantini, the White House.
The Trump administration's national security advisor has announced U.S. forces will remain in Syria, pulling back the president's call to withdraw troops quickly. Correspondent Michelle Kaczynski.
Now you have John Bolton saying, no, U.S. troops are going to have to stay in Syria until ISIS is really defeated. president said Iran now can do whatever it wants in Syria. The Secretary of State said, no, the U.S. commitment to countering Iran has absolutely not changed. Also today, Pentagon officials are telling CNN that in order to get U.S. troops out of Syria safely, they may first have to send an additional hundreds more.
A 20-year-old man suspected of being the driver in a Houston shooting that left a young girl dead is being held without bail. Assistant District Attorney Samantha Connect.
It's important in any capital case to ask for no bond. It's a right that we have, and this is the most serious offense you can have. Not only is it a capital, but it's a capital involving a child. And so we want to make sure that our community knows that they can be safe and that he's behind bars right now and that everyone can sleep just a little bit better tonight.
On Wall Street, the Dow Jones Industrial Average rose 98 points. I'm Ann Cates.
Wherever you are, make it Truth Frequency Radio.
An additional hundreds more.
A 20-year-old man suspected of being the driver in a Houston shooting that left a young girl dead is being held without bail. Assistant District Attorney Samantha Connect.
It's important in any capital case to ask for no bond. It's a right that we have, and this is the most serious offense you can have. Not only is it a capital, but it's a capital involving a child. And so we want to make sure that our community knows that they can be safe and that he's behind bars right now and that everyone can sleep just a little bit better tonight.
On Wall Street, the Dow Jones Industrial Average rose 98 points. I'm Ann Cates.
Wherever you are, make it Truth Frequency Radio.
Oh, sorry. Welcome back. You are listening to Jeranism Monday Night Raw, the current, reigning, undisputed. Wait a second. The documentary, it's 60 minutes. It's 6 different parts, 10 minutes, easy watch. And then you make up your own mind from there. He obviously had $65,000 to prove it to you. Your job is to decide by the end of the film, was it proven to you that we went to the moon? Or were there some interesting things in there, like the guy who is in charge of the satellite receiving station being asked, well, is it possible that this stuff was simulated? And he said, well, it could be simulated, but this was real data. Well, what do you mean it could be simulated, but you wouldn't know the difference? You wouldn't know. So, go ahead,
people
Dave.
just want to believe. Hey, you caused a slight crap storm by not telling anybody that you're running the second hour. So we're all spamming links. Go here, go there. Then the link doesn't work. Where are we supposed to be watching?
Well, it's always on TFR every Monday night between the hours of 6. Oh, sorry. And
how about on YouTube?
It's still on my channel.
All right. It's
I'm letting it
also on Ginger Sugar Bush 905.
Okay,
so.
maybe I'll end it at the end of this break so we don't have any phone calls on the show. We'll do that. Does that sound good? Will that make you happy? Hey, let's.
I'm happy either way. I just, again, I spammed a broken link as always, and I think I'm going to give up trying to help in the future.
So we should talk about the app that I plagiarized and was able to afford a new vehicle. And if people don't know, there's videos out there saying that I plagiarized the app that David built. And I'll just tell the story again real quick because I think it's a cool story, which was Dave Weiss calling me and saying, Jaron, I got a great idea for an app. Okay, whatever. What are you talking about? Okay, it's a flat Earth map. We put the sun and moon there. We can move the sun on the. I'm like, can they do that? I said, yeah, I found a developer who can do that. Okay, and then we talked about the moon. And then we started adding features, and we added time lapse. And then, Dave started sending me a link every damn morning. I woke up and there's a link. I have to click it. I got to uninstall the app, reinstall it. But I was the only one who got to see it. And so I saw this thing progress and come along great. And Dave was under the wire. I mean, he wanted to try and have it done by the conference, and we were like within a week. He was waking up for, how long did you wake up at 3 a.m. for? You're still doing it, aren't you?
I'm online in an hour and a half. I'm with them again.
Yeah. So, I mean,
it's nonstop.
It's nonstop. He's been working with these developers who are, of course, in India, so he's got to get up early. And then the app gets finished, and and me as a friend to Dave, I post the video. He made the video. I just put it on my channel. And then to see people saying Jaron's plagiarizing this app, and he's charging people money, and he's making money off Page Wendell's app, and what a joke. I mean, it's just so sad that people are so butthurt about this app. Dave, what are some of the issues that you've been hearing, not including the people who are upset that it's a new moon?
Yeah, the moon. We made an update, and then something went wrong, and so on Android, on half of the types of phones, it crashes and it just doesn't work. That update is going live tomorrow, and that should fix that. The Apple, on the other hand, it had a problem where the weather was timing out because we had a troll attack. We can get into that if you want, but we fixed that. But then all of the buttons stopped working. The settings button stopped working. The featured video stopped working. So we made an update, which I actually got approved over the weekend, which I didn't think you could do. But Apple has a problem on their end where they're not notifying people that there's an update. And if you go to the App Store, there's no option to update. So if you have the iPhone app on iOS, iPad, or iPhone, and you haven't updated it since in the last 2 days, delete the app and then go back and download it again, and you'll get the bug-free version that actually has a new feature where I have a link to all of the archived videos. So if you're like, hey, with that video from 4 days ago or 2 months ago, what was it? You can click that button. We're adding a whole bunch of new features. Jump forward 3 months so you can really see the seasons. You can hide all of the features now, the video, the weather, the countdown timer, and you can turn off your location and set your own locations so I can't track you and control you as a flat earther.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's
I
nice
still will
update.
be listening and taking your credit card information.
Right, and listening to all phone calls.
All phone calls
within waking hours.
Tracking you like Patricia and Mark did with their apps.
Right. You have adopted Megatron as your sponsor, right?
I can't comment on that.
All right. Was I not supposed to mention that? Uh-oh.
Yeah, whatever. So the thing is, yes, there are updates, a few bugs. It's getting better. I'm getting so many emails from people. This is the greatest app ever. They love it. And I just, without going on too long about it, the biggest, the argument that the trolls can come up with is when you look at the sun. So I'm on the East Coast here, and in the morning when the sun's rising, I see the sun over Europe, over Africa. That's where the sun is on the app. And if it's over Johannesburg and I check Google what time is it in Johannesburg, it says it's noon in Johannesburg, just like the map shows you because you're looking over it. Correct. But if you are on the ground below, on the spot where you're standing, you don't see the sun over in Europe when you're on the East Coast of America. If you drew a tiny little circle around yourself, like the size of a pencil eraser, that's where you see the sun. So it's right there, within a quarter of an inch of you on that map, maybe even less. I don't really do the math, because you're seeing it in your own personal dome of vision. When you see the sun over Africa, it's south of the equator. Well, I'm north of the equator, so I'm looking southeast. But according to a glober, I'm looking northeast, and that's not the case at all because, as I've said a million times, east and west are circles, whether you're on a ball or a flat
They're not
Earth.
circles. The east and west must work the way that us globers believe because Wolfie said so.
Yeah. Well, that means if you're I can't even speak.
Sorry.
When you say that, if you're a mile from the North Pole on a ball and you go east for 3.14 miles, you're back to where you went from. And if you don't think that's a circle, then you're a baller.
Yeah, just picture tying a string to the North Pole and then wherever you're at, in the northern hemisphere, or if you want to talk about the globe, the northern hemisphere. And if you went east or west, that you would be walking a circle around that rope or whatever that's tied to the North Pole. So I mean, I don't know why people can't quite grasp that. I do know why, and it's because we weren't taught about east and west correctly, and that's what we're trying to show.
It's a different way of thinking.
Mm-hmm.
People, they're like, they'll come up with something and they're like, and that's the way it is, and there's no other option. It's like 2 + 2 is 4, and math doesn't lie, and that's the end of it. Well, you know that 2 × 2 is 4, and 1 + 1 + 1 + 1 is 4, and 3 + 1 is 4, and 8 divided by 2 is 4. There's other answers that are equally as good, if not better.
Right.
And that's a baller would say, pool balls are round, therefore the pool table's round, therefore all balls are pool balls.
And
that's Glober thing.
And GPS works, therefore it proves a sphere.
Yeah, please.
Because you can't map people onto a sphere if they don't live on one, I guess.
And I want people to think about this. You and I discussed this earlier. Is a compass only works for the person holding it or the person standing right next to them when they're on the ground. If you're using a compass from a high up altitude where you can see the whole world, like when we look down at our iPhones or Androids and see this app, you're way high, and east and west, you're looking south. Every direction you look is south because you're looking over to Antarctica. It only works in your immediate area of 10 feet or 10 miles or maybe even 100 miles, but that's it. Mm-hmm. Anything longer than that, that east or west curves away from you and you're looking south.
And then the other thing is, because I keep hearing from people, your app's been debunked. The app's been debunked because Wolfie's shown that the sun sets over here and it doesn't. And people still can't grasp the fact that go swim in a pool and look at a light above you. Or look through any atmosphere, go back and watch my videos. I can't show it any more times, where you take that little glass dome, and nobody's saying we live in there, but it acts like the atmosphere does. And we've got scientists on record saying that the atmosphere is a lens. And so you're getting a displaced sun. And this is even part of the ballers' rhetoric, right? They tell us that when you're seeing a sunrise or sunset, you're not actually seeing the sun because it's actually behind the earth. So they're talking about an apparent sun, the same thing we're saying, that the sun is not where you think it is. So they can grasp it when it's behind the horizon. They can say, okay, I see the sun there, but it's really behind the horizon. But then when we say, well, the sun that you're looking at in the sky, yeah, it's setting south of west, but it's actually going northwest, and they lose their minds.
Right.
They can't even, it's like crayon munchers.
It's the same with the stars. Was it Chris Van Matry put out a video today? Did you see that?
I have not seen that.
So basically he's talking about, we're moving at all these ridiculous speeds for, millennia after millennia, and there's no parallax in the stars.
Right.
And everyone knows what parallax is. When you move, something closer to you will change its relation to something farther from you. But because it's so far away, it doesn't move, which is just utter nonsense. Over the periods of time that we're talking, things would change. But a sextant, if you have somebody with a sextant on the east coast of America, somebody in Kansas, and somebody on the west coast looking at Polaris and using a sextant, well, they're all going to locate different positions. So there's parallax just going across the United States, but not across the entire world over all of this time. So it's doublespeak. Mm-hmm. You got to watch his video. It's pretty good. I'll probably link it in the app in the next day or two.
So, Dave, we told everybody happy holidays and wished them, happy New Year. But we actually need to wish them a happy holiday for tomorrow. You do know
January 8th.
January
it's my favorite day tomorrow.
Yeah, January 8th is a big holiday for those who don't know. It is Earth Rotation Day. So happy Earth Rotation Day. It's the day that commemorates when French physicist Leon Foucault demonstrated the Earth rotates on an axis in 1851. Now, here's the problem with this, and I still have never been
That's showing up in everybody's social media calendars.
Well, if it's in mine, I'm going to delete my calendar. So here's the problem with it. So we're told that the atmosphere moves with the Earth, and that must be true, because if it wasn't, then planes would get to their locations, faster if they're going against the spin of the Earth towards the west, and slower if they're going with it. So here's my problem with that. The atmosphere moves perfectly with the ground. So if you set up any kind of a pendulum, how can it be deviated if the atmosphere that it exists in is moving with the spinning Earth? They need to choose one. You can't have both. It just makes no sense to me. The whole idea of same thing with Coriolis to me. It's just it's nonsense, because if you're saying that the Earth is spinning, but the entire atmosphere from the ground level all the way up to as high as you can go moves perfectly in line with the Earth moving, which it must, again, otherwise if it was slower or if it was faster, that would change plane flight times, and it doesn't. So I just don't get it. If everything's moving with it, there is no Coriolis force. Where's it coming from? The atmosphere is moving with the Earth. Is it the...
And how do you explain storms that spin in the opposite direction sometimes?
I can't explain it. I don't know if we need to go to Baller Dave. I would like to hear Baller Dave come back for one thing. Baller Dave, I would like to hear your explanation of the mere observation, 13.23 miles across the Monterey Bay. Can you just give me an explanation? Because I don't understand.
Listen, Jism, I don't really care what you want to hear, but it's so simple. Everybody get a bowl, like a cereal bowl, fill it with water. Is that water curved? No, it's not. It's flat. When you're looking across the bay, it's like a bowl, and it's the flat water going across the bowl. That's it.
Oh, boy. Get deep inside the butthole back on here, because...
It's flat.
Wait, so you're saying that because it's a bay, it's not part of the ocean, so it's flat?
It's like a bowl. Just look at a bowl of water. Does the bowl of water curve? No, it doesn't.
Wow, that's the worst one yet, Baller Dave. Let's go back to deep inside the butthole. Let's bring him back on. Dave, that's ridiculous. Did you really... Is that really an... Have you heard a Glober actually use that one?
Yes.
No way. So bays now are flat. Oceans curve, bays are flat. That makes a lot of sense. I mean, the thing with this...
the water surrounding them... I mean, they'll make up an excuse for anything because it has to be.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that people miss about the mirror observation is when you go out there and you try and do this test, and it's June or July, and you look across the water and you can't see that mirror reflect, then the immediate response from all the globetards is, oh, that proves the sphere. There's an obstruction. Okay, so let's go back there now in November or December, and now all of a sudden we do see the mirror reflection. Now remember, it's not hotter, it's colder. Okay, so we've got clearer air. So what would possibly cause that other than the fact that, okay, there's distortion of the atmospheric blocking, and then when you remove that because you go during the winter, all of a sudden you can see the mirror reflection. People need to recognize that that is proof that the Earth is not a sphere. You know, maybe people thought...
If you can't see something, there's more than one reason you can't see it, but if you can see it, then that eliminates some possibilities, like there's something in between you and it.
Well, unless you believe in fantasy looming and, mirages.
Well, no, wait, that's a problem there. There are such thing as mirages. There are
yes.
Fartamorganas.
Fartamorganas. Yeah, but that's what mirages include: reversed images, distorted images.
But the
buildings.
ballers will pick the one mirage that they saw, years ago, and they'll say that explains everything. But that's just weak thinking.
Yeah, it's
and
really weak.
The other thing, boats over the horizon. Guess what? Nobody's ever seen a boat go over the horizon. The video that we were all shown in school with the triple-masted ship, that's been broken down. We should try to dig that up. Every time they show the ship down, they lowered the camera down, and there's 5-foot waves out there.
Yeah, you can watch the water go up the side of the screen. Just watch it. Yeah. And the only other person that put out a video of a boat going over was Red's Rhetoric, and that was debunked. So, we can see birds flying into the place where... And it's so explained with just the reduced viewing angle. And, probably the best I've heard anybody explain it was with Nathan Oakley. Is really, he just described it as, you have to look at what you're looking at and call that a degree. And the fact that the bottom half of that is a smaller angle to look at because it's closer to the ground. And of course, the funny conversation that he had on his debate show, because he had a guy come in and say, well, where's the compression left to right? It's like, no, there is no compression horizontally. The compression happens because the ground is meeting the sky. You can turn around 360 degrees looking left to right and nothing ever gets in the way because there is no ground in the way. But when you're looking top to bottom, we have a problem with the fact that the ground has to meet the sky, has to meet the horizon. That's the horizon line. And if that is a small angle, it disappears.
A good way to look at it is, imagine you're floating in fake space and there's nothing around you, and you could see whatever distance that you believe you can see, but there is a finite distance that you can see. Well, spin that all around you in every direction, 365 and every dimension, you're going to create a sphere around you, right? You're in the center of your sphere of vision. Now put a land under your feet, and it's going to cut that sphere in half. Now you're in your personal dome.
Right. And then you just talk about that, as things go off into the distance, they obviously reduce in size. And as they reduce in size, they get closer and closer to that breaking point, which is the horizon, which then gobbles up the item because it gets too small to be rendered to our eyes. And these things are known, and people just can't grasp it. I don't know why it's not a bigger deal that the world has now found out that boats don't go over the curve. I mean, all you need to do is do it once. And I hear a lot of people saying, well, if I pull out my I should look at it with my eyes, and then it disappears. And then I pull out binoculars, and then it disappears. And then I should be able to pull out a telescope, and it disappears. Okay, get over that. Because really, it's not, you don't need to go that far with it. You just need to go out and either observe with your eyes or observe with a P900. And you will see the line that they call the horizon. And they've told us all since we've gone to school that horizon line is because we live on a sphere, and that's as far as you can see. After that, the ground has curved away from you. So that's what we were all taught, and that was that's their main proof that we live on a sphere. So now fast forward to times now where we've got this P900. All you need to do is go out one time, watch the boat begin to disappear, and then when you zoom in with your camera and realize that it comes back, all of a sudden you realize you were lied to. That the point where the boat had gone too far has nothing to do with the curve of the earth. You just proved it to yourself because by zooming in, you brought it back. Well, sorry, that's not how curves on balls work. You can't zoom in and see more. And
right,
yet
but the problem is one time they'll do that, and it'll be a rough, windy day where there's 5, 6, 10-foot swells out there, and they'll zoom in, and they can only see half of the ship because the other half is being blocked by the closer swells that are over your eye level. And they'll say that's curvature.
Right. Again, this is, when something's blocked once, we need to look for other answers. Is there possibly, or is the only answer possible that we live on a giant ball and that there's humps of water in between places? It's so ridiculous. I mean, the idea, I started thinking again about that Monterey observation, 13.23 miles. And then I realized that there's supposedly this 30-foot hump of water. And it's only 13.23 miles. People need to realize that what you believe then is that there is a mound of water just existing in 13 miles that is 30 foot high in the middle. How we know water doesn't work that way. You can't have a hump of water. It doesn't work. It has to fill in the less areas. So everything will always be level. That's why we have sea level. Go ahead.
I was going to say just you have to realize that you're standing at the water's edge, and that water is kind of rising up to your eye level because we live on a flat plane. You just put a couple waves out there that go an inch above your eye line. Well, draw from your eye a line from your eye to the top of that wave. That's a upward sloping wave that's going to block. It'll block the sun.
Well, you know what my highlight of my day was today? I watched a Jay Tolan Media One video. Did you watch it?
No. Oh, you got a new one?
Oh, a new one. You got to check it out.
Look at this picture.
It's incredible.
It's amazing.
It's amazing. The perfect flat earth right here in front of you. No, but here's what he shows, and everybody needs to go check it out. In fact, I think I'm just going to put it on my channel and do a little background talking to it because it's amazing. 123 miles away, he's at Point Dune in Malibu, and he films Mount Jacinto, 123 miles away. Its elevation is 10,000 feet. The entire mountain should not be visible, and you can see the entire thing. There is no mirage. There is no looming. No light from the sun is lifting up an entire mountain range. Please go check out Jay Tolan Media One. His most recent video, I think it's called 123 Mile. Amazing observation. Man, I think infrared is just awesome. I do see you guys on the wait line. I saw a couple people drop off, but we will get to calls after this break when I do
my P1000 is shipping back to me tomorrow.
I'm actually stoked about that.
Yeah, I can't wait. I have some shots that I can get that are definitive. How much curvature should there be in 25 miles?
In 25 miles?
Yeah, 25 miles.
Are you want exact or you want me to guess?
Yeah, no. So 25 times 25 times 8, right?
It's like 300.
8 divided by.
Well, it's like 300 feet, give or take.
416 feet. I can put the camera an inch, a foot above the water, and see underneath the Whitestone Bridge, which is 25 miles away.
You're a liar.
If I round down, and the tower I think is only 260 feet tall or something like that, I can see underneath it. It's right there.
Dave, you should go to JTOL Media 1 and just check that out and realize that that entire mountain should be behind the curve. And I mean, it's case closed. These are the kind of things where, now granted, just like I was saying that there could be other explanations. Sure, bring me other explanations for the fact that we see a mountain. Here's the great thing about being a flat earther. I just get to sit here and say, I see the mountain, period. You have to come and bring all these fairy tale stories of looming, and it's just ridiculous. It's not happening. You can make all those excuses you want. It's not a mirage. Nothing is looming. The light isn't lifting things up to the horizon and displaying them perfect for you, which would be like magic. I just, Globers, I don't know about them. I don't know. I don't think they want the truth, Dave.
They don't. They won't. If you give them something that's undeniable, they won't look at it. They won't look at it. I've been in an epic battle with a good friend of mine, who lives out in Oregon, on my Facebook page. It's unbelievable. Ian Leahy was helping me. It's been going on for weeks, and I showed him the moonrise from the Earthrise from the moon, where you could see the box around it, and his response was, "That's a fake picture. People make fake pictures." So then I said, "What if I show you that it's from NASA?" And I show him that it's from NASA, and a university. Still being touted as real. And he goes, well, then all of the other millions of pictures would have to be fake too. And I said, can you give me one? And he just ignores it. He won't. He just changes the subject to flights from, Auckland to, Santiago, and then accuses me of changing. It's like they won't.
No,
they won't look at it.
Here's
they
kind of
just
things.
They won't look at it, anything that will prove them wrong definitively.
It's so funny because they don't even realize that their entire universe is constructed of 85% dark matter, which has never been observed and nobody knows what it is. And,
I saw some.
And they have a right. They actually ask us, like, well, what keeps your sun and moon in orbit? Why don't we just say it's dark flattery? We've never observed it, but it's got to be there because
flatter.
Yeah, dark flatter.
Flatter.
Yeah, dark flatter, because we've never observed it, but it has to be there because otherwise the sun and moon wouldn't go around. That's what they do with the entire universe. That's what people don't realize. We got to go to break. I was about to get into a rant. All right, we'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. I'm going to shut this show down on YouTube. Please head over to Ginger Sugarbush 905 to watch the rest of the show, or TFR Live, listen live. TFR.com, listen live. Don't go anywhere.
Stay in school, they said. Use your tools, they said.
Extendivite, a 7-herb combination made from garlic, cayenne,